Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1166, 1166, Friday, June the 19th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, let's go ahead and start right here with the Rotten Reverend and dispatch of this very quickly. Some of you may have seen this interview that the Rotten Reverend Clinton did with Sky News in the UK yesterday, where she was defending the Black Lives Matter riots, saying it was a tiny, tiny minority who looted, stole, and vandalized. Just a tiny, tiny minority who looted, stole, and vandalized. The Rotten Reverend then attacked Trump for going to the St. John Church to show support after the church was set on fire. The Rotten Reverend accused Trump of hijacking Christianity and the Bible, saying he was doing a photo op holding a book he's never read. Well, that's the Rotten Reverend Clinton. She still hasn't gotten over getting her ass kicked by Trump in 2016, despite the fact that she cheated and paid for a FISA warrant and a counterintelligence operation and a coup plot. So, let's see. A tiny, tiny minority who looted, stole, and vandalized. Now, I don't know what the final number is and what the property damage estimates are, but just in the Minnesota riots alone, I read where there were over 700 buildings destroyed. 700 buildings destroyed. That's just in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. But she says it was a tiny, tiny minority who looted, stole, and vandalized. Now, here's the thing about the Rotten Reverend Clinton. Where she lives in Massapequa, New York, pretty much a gated community of rich people, you better believe that if Black Lives Matter got within 5 miles of that gated community, the Rotten Reverend would be the first one on the phone, calling the local cops, demanding that they come and protect their properties. You can bet on that. Have you seen the Rotten Reverend marching with Black Lives Matter? I don't think so. And I'm pretty sure that the Rotten Reverend went out to a Black Lives Matter protest, they would probably throw down on her. I don't think they're big fans of the Rotten Reverend. And it just shows you how far to the left has gone. And this whole idea that they want to associate themselves with Black Lives Matter and Antifa and these other groups who are engaged in all of this looting, stealing, and vandalizing. I don't know where they think that the political gain is here, unless they think maybe it'll fire up their base. But I don't think that they understand that the majority of these radical leftist groups are no fans of the Democratic Party. They're not going to vote for Joe Biden. They're not even going to vote. These people don't vote, they riot. There's a difference between rioters and voters. Now, on the other hand, the people who are sitting back watching this garbage, who largely support Trump, every one of them are going to vote. Take it to the bank. They're all going to vote. I mean, how the Democratic Party thinks associating themselves with this garbage that we see going on, how they think that is a political benefit to them is mind-boggling to me, unless they live in such an echo chamber that they have people in their inner circle that tell them that this is what they should be doing, that this somehow will mobilize their base in November to come out and vote. No, this will not. These people are not part of the Democratic base. These people are communists. And they know that the Democrat Party is not a true liberal party. They're a neoliberal, sort of globalist, New World Order party. A corporatist, globalist party. And again, the majority of these rioting groups know that. They're not friends of the Democratic Party. It's just weird watching the Democratic Party trying to ingratiate themselves to these radical leftists assuming that these radical leftists are going to say, hey, the Democrats like us, we should be their friends. No, these people hate the Democrats as much as they hate Republicans or anyone else. These are not people who have any respect at all for our political system, for either party, for how we do things here. They want to destroy our system, not join it on either side. So you got to wonder. Now, of course, we know that the Right Reverend Clinton has no political instincts whatsoever. And this just proves, it's just more evidence of what, I mean, she continues to provide more and more evidence day after day of the fact that she has no political instincts whatsoever. I mean, she is reading this, the way the Right Reverend Clinton's reading this, is that this is going to be put out on Twitter, it's going to be shared on social media, and she's going to have all these left-wing activist groups giving her the thumbs up. This is what she really believes. She thinks, it's just like when she was on that radio program, she mentioned that she carries hot sauce in her purse all the time. Yes, you never know when a super predator might be out of hot sauce and may ask you if you have any on you. Was a big proponent of the crime bill. Of course, lives in the whitest of white gated communities. And, of course, they're racist. I mean, straight up. I mean, we know about the Clintons going back to their days in Arkansas, people who know them personally and know the types of things that they say about black people. And I don't think they're fooling anybody. And that's, you know, what more can you say? The Rotten Reverend. She just cannot keep from stepping on her wood every time you turn around. Now, while we're on the subject of the Rotten Reverend, her VP pick from 2016, Tim Kaine, is completely nuts and stupid on top of that, and a little ugly on the side. Now, he made a statement a couple days ago that America invented slavery. You gotta be kidding me. I suppose he's never heard of the ancient Egyptians, the Roman Empire. How about the Ottoman Empire? And I could go on and on. There's slavery had been going on since what? In BC, since, you know, the period BC, and then it went on for another, what, 1700 years, all over the world, everywhere. We didn't even become an actual country until 1789. 1789. But for 2,000 to 3,000 years before that, slavery all over the world, everywhere. Now, maybe Tim Kaine has never heard of a place called Libya, which used to be one of the wealthiest countries in North Africa, until the Rotten Reverend Clinton had her little intervention over there. And now they have open slave trading in Libya, thanks to the Rotten Reverend and Obama. Open slave trading in Libya, thanks to the Rotten Reverend. Now, Tim Kaine has absolutely got to be, I don't even know how someone could make a statement like that. He's a senator. This guy's a senator. America invented slavery. No, America ended slavery, you dumbass. Western Europeans, followed by the United States, once we became a country, ended slavery. Now, it would have ended at the founding of our country if we could have gotten it done. Unfortunately, there were states in the South that would not even attend the Constitutional Convention if that issue were on the table. So they were forced to take it off the table. It did, however, come up at some point during the argument during representation. But there was a fairly large consensus at the time that our country was founded that we did not want to have slavery. So it's a very complicated issue to discuss about how slavery played into our founding. But we essentially, when we became a country, slavery had already been going on in the country for several hundred years. So the idea that we invented slavery is just the most insane thing I've ever heard. And it shouldn't surprise us that it came out of the mouth of the rotten Reverend Clinton's former running mate. Now, the thing I always remember about Tim Kaine, and some of you may remember this video from 2016 when during the campaign. So there was a video where Tim Kaine was somewhere in the South. I can't remember. It may have been Florida or somewhere. And they had rented out or leased a very large, what looks like a very large park, because they had like an amphitheater and a large grassy area, like, you know, bigger than a soccer field. And they had a big stage and a big amphitheater. And Tim Kaine was supposed to be giving a speech that day. And this was a viral video back in 2016. And so Tim Kaine goes to give the speech, and there is literally nobody there. There were probably, as you watch the video, from time to time, handfuls of people would pass by in front of the camera shot as they were walking by, licking their ice cream cones and doing whatever they're doing, just walking by. It's a large park area. But they weren't there to see him. There was no crowd standing down in front of the stage listening to him. There was nobody listening to him. There were just people kind of walking by and wondering, I wonder who that guy is up on stage talking. What do you think there's nobody actually listening. Why is he, you know? So Tim Kaine is up there and he goes through the whole speech. Yeah, he gives the whole speech. He's up there. He's got his microphone and he's talking to nobody. It's a big, open, huge, grassy, like park area open. And the only people who are in view of him are people, 20, 30, 40 yards away, even farther back, just kind of walking that would come in front of the camera shot because it was kind of a long shot on the camera. You can see the whole stage, huge stage, and there's Tim Kaine. He's up there by himself. Nobody even on the stage with him. Nobody down in front listening to him. Nobody around. He's just up there giving a speech. And I thought that was the most embarrassing thing I think I'd ever seen. And I thought to myself, he should have canceled the speech. There's nobody there. Nobody wanted to hear Tim Kaine give a speech. Nobody probably even knew who he was. There's people walking by looking like, who do you think that is? I don't know. But he went through the whole speech, and there was nobody there to listen in this large place, which is very funny. I'll never forget that. As long as I live, how hard I laughed. Yes, indeed. Tim Kaine. I think he just became my pick for Dumbass of the Week. And there's a lot of competition this week. Boy, oh boy, is there a lot of competition. These liberal mayors are just absolutely out of their minds. We had the one in Oakland. We had, of course, the ones in Portland, the one in Seattle, the mayor in Minneapolis, the mayor in Chicago. I mean, these liberal mayors in these cities, what's amazing to me is that with their massive record of repeated failure, they still have the chutzpah to stand in front of a microphone in the media and speak as if they're some sort of an authority on anything. When there's such a dismal failure, what you expect to see something like out of a cartoon or something, where you see, old cartoons where they would, someone would be talking and no one would want to hear him, and so you'd see like a cane come into the picture, would noose him around the neck and they drag him off the stage. I mean, that's what I'm waiting for. I mean, I'm waiting for these liberal mayors to literally be taken off the stage while they're talking. Just whisk off the stage. It's just extraordinary. And these are elected. These people are elected. Remember that. They are elected. Citizens in these liberal cities vote for these crazy people. This Mayor Lightfoot, she's a nut. This mayor in Seattle, a nut. This mayor in Oakland, a nut. And the governors are just as crazy. That's governors. And they're elected by lefties. It's mind-boggling. It's hard for rational people like myself and probably many of you to try to work yourself through how this happens. How people that are this horribly unsuccessful continue to get reelected. And the people who are voting for them are the ones who are suffering from their disastrous policies. Yet they go ahead and reelect them anyway. I don't know, man. I don't know what it is. Something in the water, maybe. Or maybe something in the educational system. It looks like the New York Police Department cops may strike on July the 4th. Now, crime rates, including murders, have gone way up in New York in the last couple of weeks. And for good reason. The cops are simply sick of it. They can't go out and do their job. They're just sick of it. They're just calling it in. They probably show up, watch the crimes go down. I'm not going to get involved. I'm just going to collect my paycheck and go home. I don't blame them. But the cops, the NYPD, may be planning a strike on July the 4th. And this is to let the city of New York, that would be de Blasio, have their independence without cops. Yeah, July 4th in New York City without any cops. I'm sure that'll go down very well. Yeah, and de Blasio is another one. I mean, this guy... I mean, I keep hearing that even Democrats don't like him, but somehow he's still there. That's why they had to run this guy out of town a long time ago. He's a mess. Yeah, and I think that this is, as I said, you're seeing already this type of thing going on. And I'm telling you, these police organizations are all connected to national police organizations. And I can assure you right now that there are discussions going on with the heads of these national police organizations about some kind of possibly a national police walkout, or at least ways, maybe not all over the country, but maybe in the targeted cities where they are being targeted. So this may not just be like New York. It could also be cops in New York, in Seattle, places that we have seen, you know, the riots and the places where the cops are getting abused. Atlanta, for example, what we just saw the day before yesterday. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something underway, you know, along that line. Now, I doubt that the cops in red states or red cities where they have no problems and where the citizens are not calling for them to be, you know, defunded or anything else, like the cops where I live or whatever. I mean, you know, I actually was in Subway today for lunch, and there was 3 cops in line, and they were laughing and joking and talking and in good spirits, and people standing there in line talking, and you know, everything's cool here. We don't have any issues. The cops here are fine. They're not worried. So I would think that this would be, I think there is something cooking on the national scale, but I don't think it's going to be a nationwide thing. I think it will be a targeted type blue flu, if you want to call it that, a blue flu type of event. And July 4th would be an excellent time to do it. I mean, just imagine on July 4th if the cops, because there's going to be a lot of patriotic people wanting to go out and do their patriotic thing on July 4th, which is going to drive people like Antifa insane, and BLM, they're going to go insane. Democrats are going to go insane. I mean, the thought of regular Americans waving their flags and shooting off fireworks and drinking beer and all that kind of stuff, that is probably going to push these people off the edge. So just imagine in cities like Portland and Seattle and Oakland and Atlanta, places like that, where the cops are being abused by liberal mayors, liberal police chiefs and things and such. Just imagine for 24 hours on July 4th if they literally, no cops show up to work in these cities. That could be very ugly. And it could be very ugly, especially if, you know, because you've got to remember, there's people on the other side, the patriotic type people. If they find out the cops aren't going to be around, they just might decide to go into Portland and take the place back, or Seattle, or Oakland, or somewhere like that. You know, you might see some like patriot groups take advantage of the opportunity. There's no cops around to go in and fix the problem. Got to watch. Anything can happen because life does come at you pretty fast these days. Justice Roberts strikes again. You know, I said when George W. Bush, when he left office, I remember the day he left office, and I was so very happy. Unfortunately, we got Obama. But I remember, and I remember a time I was Ron Paul supporter, and I remember telling my friends on the left and right, especially my friends who were really bummed out because Obama won the election, my friends kind of on the right, my Republican friends, and I was like, I don't know why you guys are so upset. I mean, yeah, I didn't want Obama to win either, but quite honestly, do you think Obama's going to be that much worse than Bush? I mean, he'd have to be pretty bad to be as bad as Bush. Now, of course, it turns out he was worse than Bush because he launched the coup. But prior to that, on a lot of other issues, he was about the same as Bush until the coup came along. And I remember saying at that time that I said that the stench, the lingering odor of the George W. Bush presidency will linger on for years and years and years after he has left office. That even 10, 20 years after W. Bush has been gone, we'll still be living with the repercussions, the results of his 8 years as president. He did a lot of damage to the country. Now, Obama managed to top him as a result of the coup. But prior to that, they were running pretty close in my mind, neck and neck, as two of the worst presidents of my lifetime. And I was, around for Jimmy Carter and Lyndon Johnson, by the way. And Richard Nixon. So, anyway, Justice Roberts. And the problem with Justice Roberts is he's young. But he strikes again. He sides again with the loony leftists, this time to issue the deciding vote in a 5-4 ruling on DACA, meaning this decision will block Trump from being able to end the DACA program. And this is just mind-boggling to me. And I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a Supreme Court justice or anything like that, but just as pure, very simple common sense. DACA was dropped on us by essentially a memo, executive order. And therefore, a new president comes into office, he should be able to reverse an executive order. John Roberts is voting as if this was passed through Congress and is a law that he's ruling on. It's not. It was an executive order. So what he's saying is Obama, okay for him to sign an executive order for DACA, but it's not okay for Trump to end or overturn the executive order on DACA. I don't get where the legal argument would be there. It shouldn't even be, in fact, it shouldn't even be in the court. They should never even heard this. They should have kicked it right back to Congress and said, man, this is for lawmakers to decide, not the Supreme Court. There's nothing to rule on here. It's not a law. It was never passed into law by Congress. It's not in the purview of the Supreme Court. It was an executive order. We're talking about the Supreme Justice, the head justice of the Supreme Court. Clearly, he's not ruling according to the rule of law, the Constitution, or anything else, or the guidelines that you would expect that the Supreme Court would follow. This is purely political. I mean, this is purely a political decision. And this coming after the recent move by Gorka, or not Gorka, what's his name? Gorsuch. The failure of Gorsuch, again, getting confused in politics. And that's a shame because I thought Gorsuch was a really good pick. I think 90% of the time he'll get it right, but he really dropped the ball on issues relating to the Second Amendment with voting with the liberals just a couple days prior. So, not a good week for the Supreme Court. Apparently, we don't have enough serious conservatives or libertarians on the Supreme Court. Trump needs to win another term and get at least 2 more really good justices on the court, because apparently what we have now is not enough. Thanks for nothing, Justice Roberts. You suck. He gave us Obamacare. Just the news. So the former Trump campaign advisor, or not even a campaign advisor, he's actually an advisor to Trump on foreign policy, and he was an advisor. He's been an advisor to many Republican presidents on foreign policy, particularly issues dealing with Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Middle Eastern countries, and things like that. Walid Phares, and you may remember Walid Phares came under the scope of Uncle Bob the Executioner. They actually went after him. He was another one of the Trump people that they went after. Now, they ended up not leveling charges against him, but they certainly worked him over and were wanting to hit him with some charges, but they never could find anything that they could drop on him. But they sure tried. But he did an interview with Just the News. Walid Phares did an interview with Just the News, and he says that it was Trump's plan to overturn the Iran nuclear deal that began Russiagate. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I honestly believe that there's a lot that's certainly was a major issue. It's not brought up very much, but if you look at the targeting of Michael Flynn was also extremely opposed to the Iran deal, and Trump was campaigning big time on the Iran deal. Now, it's not just that Trump wanted to overturn the Iran deal, it's a lot of other things that have been reported about the Iran deal, some other really shady things that were never made public that were going on around the Iran deal. That I think there's some stuff going on with the Iran deal that's never been disclosed to the public, or not to the mass public at large. There have been independent journalists who've done videos and written stories about some of these nefarious things that went on around the Iran deal, some issues with laundering drug money and various other things which could or may or may not be true, but still there's a lot of things that went on around the Iran deal, not just the deal itself, that I think worried Obama if these things would ever come out. And I believe that Phares is right that probably I understand why the Right Reverend Clinton and her team and the FBI wanted to target Trump, but for Obama to want to target Trump, remember he's leaving the White House. Other than the fact that his agenda might be overturned, he's going to go off and be a multi-millionaire playboy, running around the globe, going on vacation, and doing whatever he does. He wasn't running for re-election. So there had to be something that really motivated him to get involved in the coup and to take that kind of a risk, knowing good and well that there was a potential that this would all blow up on him. So I think it's very likely that the Iran deal and Trump's campaigning on the fact that he was going to kill the Iran deal just as soon as he got to be president, and the fact that Michael Flynn was very outspoken about the Iran deal as well. And so I definitely think that would probably be a major driver in Obama's decision to get personally involved, because he could have stayed out of it. He could have said, okay, I'm going to look the other way. Yeah, you guys go ahead and do what you're doing, but I don't want to know about it. I'm going to look the other way. And he could look the other way and, allowed it all to happen, but not been personally involved. But now we know he was personally involved, which means it was personal to him. And I can see where the Iran deal would be something that would make him quite nervous. Not just that it be overturned, but that we might learn other things about the Iran deal that would not look so good. So, yes, I think that's very sound analysis by Walid Phares. A lot of people are, of course, bracing for possible violence in Tulsa on Saturday night, where Trump's going to be having a huge rally. We know that there was almost 1 million people signed up. People have been camping out there since Monday of this past week. So people have been camping out there all week. They're coming in by the thousands every day. There's going to be a huge number of people there. I heard like 40,000 maybe more. Because we don't know how many people will be there who won't even be able to get into the arena, but who will watch it from the outside on the big screens. So it is going to be a huge rally on Saturday night in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I don't expect that we're going to see any direct confrontations between, say, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, groups like that. I don't think that they're going to try to face off against 40,000 Trump supporters at a Trump rally. And I don't think the cops, who are obviously going to be a lot of cops there, and the National Guard, I think, is actually going to be on standby. So I don't think you're going to see a direct confrontation. But Al Not-So-Sharpton is going to be about 5 miles from there holding a speech where he's going to try to rile everybody up and things like that. But I don't think these people are quite stupid enough to take, 1,000 or 2 or whatever BLM people, maybe Antifa, and throw them into 40,000 rabid Trump supporters. I don't think they're quite that stupid. So we'll see, but I don't think so. I mean, that wouldn't go very well. Well, as we were talking about yesterday, the Walrus, Huku-Kachu, John Bolton, has a lot of problems. Now, John Bolton, the Walrus, probably thought that by writing his what appeared to be illegal tell-all book, that he would somehow be embraced by the left and the anti-Trumpers and all the rest for his good works. But he is finding out right now that that's not how it works, because now he's really put himself into a pickle. Or as Styx would say, he's between a cock and a hard place. Because the Walrus now has found himself in a situation where the Department of Justice, Bill Barr, is considering criminal charges for disclosing classified information against the Walrus. Now, this character who we just talked about a couple of months ago, this guy worked at the in the intelligence community, who got busted giving his girlfriend intelligence information. He just got sentenced yesterday to roughly, I think, 30 months, almost 3 years in jail for disclosing classified information. And here we have Attorney General Barr, the DOJ, considering criminal charges against the Walrus for disclosing classified information. He could be looking at a couple years in jail for what he disclosed in the book. And even though his book hasn't been released yet, he had to provide a galley copy of his book to his publisher for them to edit it, which means he shared classified information with a publisher who now has all that information, which can now be leaked. So he could be facing criminal charges. Now, maybe he thought that the left would pay him a big TV contract and welcome him over on CNN or PMSNBC. But that's not going to happen. Because what actually is going on is the Dems hate Bolton just as much as we all do. In fact, you now have the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff, and Jerry the Penguin Nadler wanting to question John Bolton for withholding what he knew during the impeachment hearings. They're pissed. They're saying, what? You're waiting now to cash in on a book when we had impeachment hearings going on? You should have come forward during the impeachment hearings. And by not doing so, you could be in some trouble. Pelosi also saying the same thing. He cashed in on a book when he could have came in the impeachment hearings and provided important testimony. But he did not do that. And so now he's taken it from the left and from the right. And it's well deserved. Because I hate the Walrus. And I'd be happy if this ends his political career. Forever. He's done no good whatsoever for this world. Certainly not for Trump. Now, finally, I'm sick of Hollywood. I've been hearing these people putting up with these. I'm sick and tired of their videos. I'm sick and tired of their crap. So I would like to propose that from this point forward, because the Hollywood leftists are so concerned about Black Lives Matter and all the rest, I think that we should come up with a new rule. That from now on, every Hollywood motion picture, every one of these stupid sitcoms, every one of these Hollywood productions, that there must be an equal number of black people in every movie and every show. There must be at least half of the people in the movie or in the show must be black. I wish I could make that an edict, but I hope someone will put that on social media and start pushing for it. Let's force Hollywood to put at least 50% of the characters in their movies and TV shows must be black. Let's try that. See how they like that. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.